announcement that we made since yesterday. There were two announcements we made yesterday and one announcement today. Basically, this announcement was done after the DRB-Hicom shares has been suspended yesterday. I will explain to you what those announcements are from a total picture so that everyone here will understand what's going on. So if I may, I will start with the fact that Proton Group is a company where it is not as healthy as we want it to be. So therefore, we need to do something. One of the things that we are doing is, of course, to find a strategic partner. And when we have selected a strategic partner in the name of Chichang Holdings, Geely Holdings Group, or ZGH, we have put our minds together and think what will be best for Proton. Now, I must emphasize that this is not a disposal of company, because the DRB-Hicom is still retained as a 50.1% shareholder. So in that sense, it's different from a straight disposal where a company sells their subsidiary and be done with it. Here, as a responsible shareholder, we need to think on what the future of Proton will be together with ZGH. So Proton is broken up into two big components. Sorry, it's possible. I'm losing my voice. One is what we call POMS, which is the production, operation, manufacturing, and sales. And the other, on your left-hand side, at the bottom, is the distribution company. So now, what we have actually invited Geely, and what are they offering to us? One is a cash injection of 170.3 million, which we have announced during the Heads of Agreement. Number two is, it's okay. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Number two is also ZGH is providing an SUV Boyu where the implied value is 290 million ringgit. Now there's a difference from what we estimated earlier. We will explain to you. So these two components forms by and large the total consideration of the transaction. Number three, Geely is also putting in future models which we will develop together. Number four, the latest technology and R&D programs. Next is the assembly of Volvo cars for any excess capacity in Tanjung Malim. So that needs to be emphasized, because the priority is to actually manufacture Proton vehicles. If there is excess capacity, then we will utilize it for Volvo cars. And that's only assembly. Now, of course, ZGH or Zhejiang Geely Holdings provides the management expertise. Yeah. Next is the fact that Proton R&D Center is recognized as one of the global centers of excellence for ZGH Group. The next is the fact that Proton will also be the manufacturing hub for Geely right-hand drive models in the region. Next is the fact that our local vendors, this is what sometimes is not being captured, but this is a big point to us. Our local vendors stand a chance to be on the global shared purchasing system of ZGH Group, which means, as I mentioned in my speech earlier today, that if Volvo in Sweden would like to buy components, our local vendors plus other vendors that is included in the global shared purchasing system will also stand a chance to be selected if they meet the standards. Then, of course, the operational relocation to Tanjung Malik. Those are the key tenets of the agreement between DRB-Hicom and ZGH Group, Zhejiang Geely Holdings. Now, the next component to address the fundamental objective of turning around Proton is the government. Okay? Now, the government, as you know, has given a soft loan to Proton last year in June, amounting to 1.5 billion ringgit. And this soft loan is a loan. I need to highlight this or stress this. It's a loan, that means it will be paid back. Okay? But it's just the terms are soft. Now, I will show to you now the government's role in making this or achieving this fundamental objective. That is, one, the balance of the soft loan of 250 million will be released hopefully today after we have signed the definitive agreement, because that was one of the main conditions that was set by task force. If you remember, the total amount of the soft loan is 1.5 billion. The task force or the government held back 250 million to say that whenever you find a strategic partner, then only we will release the remaining 250 million. So that will be coming from the government. Next is the R&D grant reimbursement of 1.1 billion. This is something that was mentioned to the media and to the public by Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Johari Ghani, MOF 2 or Minister of Finance 2, when we signed the heads of agreement. Now, it also basically this R&D grant reimbursement underscores the fact that Proton had actually spent on R&D many years ago. In fact, before DRB-Hicom became the shareholder of Proton, Proton has already spent this R&D, and the total amount that Proton applied at that time after, for the program was 3.7 billion ringgit. And that was in 2010 when Proton put the application for the R&D reimbursement. Total was 3.7. We have been going back and forth even before DRB-Hicom came in as a shareholder. And when DRB-Hicom came in, we followed through because we believe Proton is eligible and entitled for some. And after having looked at it from ministry's point of view, they have cut down the amount to 1.1 billion ringgit. So, but the government has also said that this 1.1 billion R&D reimbursement is available to you only when you find a strategic partner also. So, in that sense, that's why this 1.1 billion comes in now when we have concluded the definitive agreement with a strategic partner. So this is part and parcel of the, getting Proton on a fresh footing again. Now next, I will show you DRB-Hicom's role into this deal to make this a successful venture. Or before that, down at the bottom, Proton, what Proton will do is also to pay back the syndicated loan of 533 million, and that is from Malaysian banks. Yeah, so all Malaysian banks have a syndicated loan given to Proton. So the intention is when ZGH comes in, or Xinjiang Geely comes in, we want to make sure that the balance sheet of Proton is free from loan, so that it'll be easier for Proton and for Geely and us to turn around Proton. So that's the idea. Yeah. Now next is on DRB-Hicom. First, I have to explain this. There is a transfer of non-automotive assets worth about 1.2 billion from Proton to DRB-Hicom. Now this I need to explain, and please, if you can get it right, it'll be good for us. Now the reason for this is because we want to make sure that Proton is only the business of automotive. Any other non-related automotive business is not considered by ZGH. So therefore, we say, okay, we will take it back. Because to be fair, ZGH is also not involved in any property development in Malaysia. Included in those assets are also, over the years, Proton has accumulated certain subsidiaries, may not be related to automotive. There's also a Yayasan Proton helping students to give scholarships and all that. So all those things are not related to automotive business is being taken out, so that we can focus Proton to what it's supposed to do best together with Geely. Now, I will explain to you a little more on that. Next is DRB-Hicom undertakes to, on the warranty and unmet volume to the vendors, amounting to about 331 million. Yeah. What this means is that any legacy issues, we as a responsible shareholder, DRB as a responsible shareholder, should not burden our new partner to take up the bill, because this was decided before Xinjiang Geely gets into Proton. So this is what we undertake to warrant. Next is DRB-Hicom is committed to build an R&D test track for up to 180 million ringgit. Now, what is this about? Is because when the first item at the top, when we have transferred the assets, including landed assets, including the Shah Alam land, when Proton relocate to Tanjung Malim, Tanjung Malim doesn't have a test track size that is what Shah Alam has. So with that, DRB-Hicom undertakes to build this test track for Proton when we transfer or relocate to Tanjung Malim. The other one is, over the years, DRB-Hicom has advanced Proton, because Proton needed funds and cash. In fact, the total shareholders advance is 1.13 billion. But what Proton will do now is to repay part of the shareholders advance that DRB-Hicom has given to Proton back to DRB-Hicom. So that is one of the items. on the, if I can show you on the top, where it links to the government. Now, if you look at all this now, as it is on the screen, this is what we require, all parties require, GLI, ZGH, DRB-Hicom, and government to assist or to make sure Proton is on a fresh footing again. So that's always the fundamental objective. Okay? But because the government still has the 1.5 billion loan in Proton, we need to address the risk from the government side. So what we are doing is, for those assets that has been transferred out from Proton, DRB-Hicom is pledging it back to the government, because now the government has security. If anything were to happen to Proton, the government can take the non-automotive related assets worth 1.2 billion ringgit. At least 1.2 billion. Now, what DRB-Hicom will also do is to buy the part of the loan, or the redeemable cumulative RCCPS, which is a preference shares. That is actually how we have designed the instrument of the soft loan. It's a preference shares. So DRB-Hicom buys or pays to the government 350 million of the preference shares. Now, why this is important is that this 350 million or 300, the amount is actually due in 2023. But we are paying it on behalf of Proton in advance in order for us to do all the reorganization of Proton here. We need to get the government's approval, and in the preference shares document with the government, or agreement with the government, it's stated in there that you cannot do anything with Proton, take out anything or do anything with the assets unless you pay the first tranche of the soft loan. So that is what we are doing. Basically, we are paying to get license to do the internal reorganization, including to charge, to give the assets to the government as a charge. That also is requires for DRB-Hicom to pay in advance or purchase in advance the RCCPS. Now, the last is the conversion rights. If you remember, the soft loan or the preference shares that is being held by the government has a right to convert into Proton shares if Proton does not pay any amount of the 1.5 billion soft loan. Now, the government has stated or emphasized to us, now that we have a strategic partner, the government doesn't want to have conversion rights anymore. They don't want to think of the future, what will happen to Proton. But in return for the conversion right, they will dissolve or not. They will transfer the conversion rights to DRB-Hicom. But in return, the government says, I want the security of land and other assets. So that's what DRB-Hicom has given to the government. So the government here is protected on the 1.5 billion soft loan. So in terms of in government's books, actually it will be 1.2 billion left, because the 300 has been paid by DRB-Hicom. So this is key to the understanding or in achieving the fundamental objective of putting Proton on a fresh footing. So this is what I have. Now, the last item I have, which is basically the BOU implied value. During the signing of the heads of agreement, the estimated or the indicative value that that we put in there was 600 million. Now, what we have agreed is that the value is 290 million. Now, this valuation has been done by KPMG, an independent valuation report was issued, and there is a valuation basis of discounted cash flow over 7 years. Now, what I need to highlight is really the one in the green box. The green box says that the initial indicatives of 600 million that we put in at the heads of agreement was based on internal benchmarks, was based on Proton's own benchmark. For example, the development of Iris, Proton Iris platform cost about 600 million. So we use something that we are familiar with. However, Iris and the BOU has a different characteristics in terms of sales. So what KPMG has done is to actually look at the future value or the future volume of SUV. Naturally, an A segment will sell a lot more, but a C segment will sell a low volume, but with a higher price. So hence, there is a difference. And KPMG has concluded that the 290 million implied value of the BOU is reasonable. So the key elements of strategic partnership, I think we have already covered this many times. In my speech also I mentioned this. So we thank you and we will wait for your questions. Thank you very much. Before that, perhaps anybody want to add anything?